Hi guys, welcome to this webinar. Thanks for joining. Today we're going to be talking about those 1099 NEC forms. We have a special guest with us today in Gabrielle Fontaine. I'm going to let her introduce herself in just a little while. But for now, before we get started, I just want to cover off some really basic housekeeping. So today we're going to be doing a bit of a live demo with a click along. So if you get lost at any point, just keep an eye out for the Zoom icon. It'll be somewhere on your screen. You can just give that a click at any point to jump straight back in to the webinar. You'll see some control panels down the bottom of the screen. There's two main ways to communicate with us today. So the first one is the chat box. So I'd like you to go and blow the chat box up right now. I can see we have hundreds of people joining the webinar. So please just drop us a message. Let us know where you're from. I want to make sure that you can hear me and that you're ready for the webinar. The other way to interact with us is through the Q&A box. So we encourage you to ask as many questions as possible. There is no such thing as a bad question. So we want you to maximize your return on investment in joining us today. And so ask any question that comes to mind. And at the end, we'll make sure that we circle back around and get through all of those questions. Hopefully you've all done your homework and gone and set up a Pixie trial in advance of the webinar. It's going to be really, really important for you to be able to log in and click along with the demo. If you haven't had a chance, if you scroll right to the top of the chat box, you'll see a link where you can go and sign up just so that you can still join in. But if not, don't worry too much. All of this is going to be recorded and you can always revisit this later on. Cool. So I'll tell you a little bit about me before we get started. So my name is Dominic. I'm the customer success lead here at Pixie. I qualified as AAT, which stands for Association of Accounting Technicians, in 2014. I had a few jobs in accounting and finance before joining Xero and working as a consultant to help small bookkeeping and accounting firms scale with technology, which makes me a Xero certified advisor. And my discovery of Pixie was really organic because quite often when I would be helping smaller firms, they would always have the same challenges and the same pain points. And that was, when they begin to scale, how do they do that and maintain control of all of their kind of back of house tasks? How can they provide a consistent service to their clients? And time again, I would recommend Pixie. And all of my clients were really grateful for that. And one thing led to another, and I introduced myself to Celso, and I joined the team. Gabriella, over to you if you just want to introduce yourself.
Sure. My name's Gabrielle Fontaine, and I've done lots of webinars. You may have been on one of my webinars before, but if you haven't, I will go through this quickly. I've had my own bookkeeping business for a long time. Yes, I'm pretty old, but I've been doing it completely through the internet since 2003. Did not realize that I was kind of ahead of my time at the time, but it just means I have a lot of experience in working through the internet and serving clients and doing things like 1099 NEC electronically. I also, it's funny that Dom has been in the Xero world. Well, I've lived in the QuickBooks world, first desktop and then now online. I've had, been around for a while, and also done lots of classes and training for accountants and bookkeepers who are looking to work virtually through the cloud completely. So that's why I ended up doing lots of webinars. And as far as Pixie goes, I use Pixie in my own bookkeeping practice, and I was very excited when I finally found it because I found that small practitioners had a hard time finding a practice management solution that was meant for us. And the thing that for me really supercharged me to go, yes, Pixie, was because it focuses on the workflow, on doing the step-by-step. Prior to that, I had to use a separate program to do that, as opposed to having it in a practice management, which is where I can manage everything and keep track of all my clients. So I was very, very happy and immediately loved Pixie for that reason. I will tell you, as we now go into our workshop agenda, on this part that's going to cover about the parameters for 1099 NEC, I'm going to go fast. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because likely you've already had some exposure to this. Maybe you've done it for years and you just want to know like what the latest or some ins and outs, because it has gotten a little more complicated over the years. But don't worry about it, because you're going to, if you're like, I can't write this down, don't worry about it. We're recording it. So you'll be able to have access to the replay. You'll also get access to a workshop that we did in November on this, where I went into more depth. The whole workshop was on the parameters, and will get access. So you can always go back in your own time to get through that. But we're just going to queue it up so that you have all the basics in place and anything that's new this year. Then we're going to really focus on the demo. So just wanted to tell you that. So here it is. This is what we're doing. We're going to review the basics for this year, 2020. Well, the year that we're filing is 2021. And then also just like a top level view of the steps. So, because for me personally, when I can see it visually, it grounds me, so that when everything's flying around and it's crazy, because we know January is a crazy month for bookkeepers, is I can just look at that and take a breath and realize, okay, this is where I am. This is what I have to do. So we're going to show you that so that you can use it and give it to you. And then to me, the highlight of this whole thing is seeing how the Pixie template, the click along part, is where you can actually do this for each of your clients, and you don't have to remember where you are. So it saves a lot of brain power. And then as Dom said, we're leaving some time at the end for your questions. So go ahead and enter those. Now, Dom, I'm going to ask you quick, do you prefer that everybody puts their questions in the questions bubble? Because sometimes it can be confusing between the chat and questions.
Yeah, definitely. If everyone can pop their questions in the Q&A box, just so that we can show we don't miss anything.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Because when we have so many people on a webinar like this, if you put it in both places, if you put it in the chat, we might miss it. So first of all, you've heard about us, what we're doing. We want to hear from you on why did you want to join this workshop today? And it's a poll so that you can tell us about your thought process. And Dom's going to launch that.
Yeah, so we wanted to hear what you guys had to say. So you'll see a poll popping up on your screen right about now. So yeah, let us know what you wanted to see today.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and you just click on the poll when it pops up on your screen. I saw some people adding into the chat box, and that's fine too, but it helps us a little more to see where you fall. And of course, if there's some reason that's not on here, you can always give it to us in the chat as well.
Answers are trickling in.
Okay, guys, come on, come to the screen. You got to go to the screen. And
we're at 78% right now, so this is
all right.
Pretty going actually. So well done. It's good to see everybody's awake and had a coffee. Yeah, it's a bit of a landslide, really. 36% of people are saying all of the above. So they just want to learn absolutely anything that we've got on offer today. But 45% are looking for tips to improve the services they offer.
Okay. Well, let me know when you've closed this out and we will continue on.
Unfortunately, 4% of the user base get crunched every year by the 1099s. So we're going to do everything we can to help that 4%.
Actually, that's a great percentage, because if it's only 4% who are crunched, then bravo. Because, and of course, sometimes it can sneak up on you last second and that's happened to me for sure. But bravo, because it shows you're experienced if you're not getting crunched. So that means 96% are not crunched. And that's why they're here, because it is January.
All right, I pop the results up on the screen if you're interested, but other than that, I'll close that down and we can move on. Okay, excellent. Well, thank you guys for participating, because the webinar is no good when it's just a one-way conversation. We like it to be interactive. So here we go. You ready? There's actually good news. Last year, there was much more new information because the 1099 NEC was a brand new form for 2020 filing. For this year, for tax year 2021,
It's not many changes. They're really quite minor. If this is your first year filing and you're like, NEC, I thought it was a miscellaneous, and it's nope, NEC is specifically for the non-employee compensation. That's what the NEC is for. And it has the deadline of January 31st. And that means for filing as well as sending them out to the recipients. So that's why it's such a crunch for us, because it's everything through December 31st has to be filed by the end of this month. Now, the difference for this year is last year's form was like about the same size as the 1099 miscellaneous. This year, it's a little bit shorter. That can, if you were still printing it out, now you can get 3 to a page as opposed to 2. And then there is a minor change on the 1099 miscellaneous form, and it's just a name change. It used to be miscellaneous income. Now it's called miscellaneous information. Big deal, right? But that's what they changed. And also, just as a reminder, the delivery date on that for recipients is January 31st, but depending on whether or not, if you're filing electronically or by paper, your deadline to get the filing in is a little different. For paper, it's February 28th, and for electronic, it's March 31st. To make that simple, I would say January 31st. Just get it all done by January 31st. Makes it a lot easier. So here's a look at the 2021 1099 NEC. You see it's very, very basic in that all you're doing, filling in, if I can find my mouse, there it is that you're just putting in the payer information, the TINs, the recipient's information, and then the compensation. Pretty much that's it. Only if they're using backup withholding are you ever dealing with that information, which is rare. And then as far as this box, I would say, look at the instructions. You're not going to have many who deal with that. And we'll talk about this in a minute on what goes in there. But just so that you could see the form, there's not much that goes in there. So it's pretty good. All the work comes in trying to figure out, like, what do we report onto that form? So the first thing to remember, because it can get confusing, especially if you're under pressure, is the amount that we're reporting, because it's compensation, it's for services. It is not for any vendor that sold products. So just keep that in mind, because I've seen some get confused with that they think they need to report that. It's only for services, for contractors. And this is for those who are not filing a corporate tax return. Okay, but then thinking, well, how do I know what they're filing, what the vendors, my clients' vendors are filing for tax returns? Well, that's why you have to ask for a W-9. So you want to be asking them. And if they're obviously, if it says incorporated in their name, you don't have to give them a 1099. But if they're an LLC or they don't have anything after their name and they might be a sole proprietorship, you do need to get the W-9. And with the LLC, it's tricky because sometimes people think, oh, it's an LLC, so it's corporation. No, not necessarily. If it's a single member or a partnership, that still gets the 1099. If it's filing as an S Corp, then it doesn't. So you cannot know that unless you ask for the W-9 from them. Also, most everybody knows this. We're only reporting amounts over $600 paid by cash, check, or bank-to-bank ACH payments. That's it. These are the only amounts that are going to go into box 1. And I do have one little disclaimer on it. If you are working with attorneys, their rules are a little different. So I would just say refer to the IRS instructions on that, because that's beyond the scope of our webinar today. We're doing just the basics and a quick overview here. Also, what does not go on the 1099 NEC? This is the part where a lot of us get tangled up, and it's just because we're trying to do the right thing, but we overthink it. It should be any amount, as we said, services to the independent contractors paid by credit or debit card. Do not use a 1099. You don't need it for that. They don't need to get anything from your client. Also, if they're being paid, if these vendors of your clients are being paid by PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, there's a whole bunch of those that are considered third-party networks by the IRS. The downside is the IRS does not give us a list of all those different third-party networks. They just use a term called the payment settlement entities. In my experience, that basically means, like in Venmo, if they're getting paid, the money's going into account, and then the contractor or the vendor has to pull that money down, that does not go on a 1099 NEC. It's already going to be reported on a 1099K, or it's subject to be reported on a 1099K. So it's only cash, checks, or bank-to-bank transfer, direct deposits. Everything else generally is going to fall under these types of payments, which we do not have to include on the $600 or the 1099 NEC. So because that falls under being subject to the 1099K. Now the rules and the thresholds for 1099K are different. At least for now, it is going to change because I've already seen the information coming. But for the tax year 2021, it's only $20,000 in total payments and 200 transactions. Those vendors will get a 1099K. We don't have to worry about whether or not our clients, vendors, are getting a 1099K. We only need to know if it's a credit card, debit card, third-party network, not on our radar. Do not report it on a 1099 NEC. I have had people fight me on this, but here's the problem. If you do report that, you might be thinking, well, I'm going to report it anyway, just to be safe. What you're going to do for those vendors is double report income. That's going to cause them problems with the IRS, and they're going to come back to you, to your client, and say, hey, I shouldn't have got this. You need to reissue my 1099 NEC, and then you look bad in front of your client. So just want to put that in your mind. It's not better to report more income than you're supposed to. Okay, so 1099 miscellaneous, there is a little bit of a difference here. And it is only that they took, well, for 2020, they took away the box 7, which was where we used to report the contractor income. And you notice in 7 here, it has this other box. And this is a box that you also saw on the 1099 NEC. Again, it's a very specific situation, and I'd recommend you go look at the directions from instructions from the IRS for this. But then also, if you're working with attorneys, you'll have to review that. So, of course, I'm getting ahead a little bit, but just so you can see the form, it's very little difference. Only the name was really changed. And it wasn't to protect any innocence. So what do we report on a 1099 miscellaneous? You're not going to have many of these to do, but there are some amounts that you may need to. If you have clients that receive, well, your clients pay contractors royalties, or they're paying rents to an individual, sole prop or a single member LLC, and they're not using a management company, then you might be reporting rents. There's also gross proceeds for a settlement to attorneys. Again, I'm going to refer you to the instructions. It's not really difficult. It's just attorneys have different rules, because you can report this money goes on a 1099 miscellaneous, but payments for services from the attorney go on the 1099 NEC. So look at the instructions. The instructions go together. They'll guide you. It's not really that difficult. And then also those special payments that could be for the $5,000 for outside sales, that could be reported on either form, which just makes it more confusing. But unless you're in that situation, don't even worry about it. And if you are in that situation, just read the instructions and you'll find it in the IRS publication. So that was, I know it was kind of fast, but it's just to give you the basics and refresh your memory, because I know we only do this once a year for the most part. It's a good reason to freshen our mind. But now let's zoom back out and think about, okay, how do we handle all this? Now that we know the rules, what's the workflow we have to go through with each of our clients that do have to send out 1099s? Well, given that we're in January, we're a little behind on this, but before the year ends, it's usually the best time to make sure that every time you have a vendor for your client that looks like they might be eligible to get a 1099, you want to be requesting the W-9. It's always best to get your client in the habit of getting that before they start paying the contractor, if you can do it. But then because that's usually the most time-consuming part. Then you will want to follow up on any requests that don't get answered. And then once you get the W-9s, you want to do the TIN matching. And usually the 1099 software will have that option. I will say, if you're using Track 1099, they give you the IRS instructions on how to do it. If you're using Tax 1099, which is the one I use, it's automatically in there. It's convenient. It's $1 per request. It's nothing. So it's definitely worth it to do the TIN matching, because that can save you from getting 1099s rejected later. Also, then this week, the first week in January, basically, you want to follow up again on any who still haven't given you the W-9s, confirm all the payments have been posted that are going to qualify for the 1099. So that's just making sure your December, full 2021 books have been posted, everything's posted. And then you want to go through and calculate the payments to be reported, because you may have some vendors that they received some checks and then they received some credit card payments. You only need to look at the check payments in order to see if they qualify for the 1099s. And then throughout this month, then now you're creating and preparing all your 1099s. And before the 31st, you want to make sure all your TIN matches have been completed, prep your forms, send them out to the payees. I do recommend sending them electronic if you can, but you may have to send them by paper, and then file them electronically. It is so much easier to do so. I highly recommend that over trying to do it by paper, which means then you have the January 31st deadline. And then after we pass the 31st deadline, all you have to do is then save the payer's copy, or the copy that your client has to keep on file, and make sure that that's filed properly. So it could, within whatever your document management is, and then follow up on your filing, your electronic filing, to make sure everything got accepted, because if anything does get rejected, you need to correct that and maybe issue a corrected 1099. And then save your copies of the acceptances from the IRS. Those usually come through pretty quick, by the way. And that's it. Let me just go back and show you so you can see that if somebody wants to take a screenshot, you can. Dom, I believe, is going to use this in his demo. So that'll help you too. But this is just kind of a grounding when you're trying to deal with it with all your clients, to get your head where you are in the process. So we have another poll for us, and we want to know, assuming that this is not your first year doing 1099s, we want to know, what are you using to track the workflow for each of the clients when you are issuing your 1099s? We're just curious to see, because hopefully you're not trying to keep it all in your head. If you have only a couple clients, I guess that wouldn't be bad, but you should. Again, this is a poll that's on your screen, and you just click on the answer that's best for you. Doing good on time. So just want to make sure Dom has plenty of time. I can talk a lot.
We're all good so far. It's actually quite surprising, as so far, from the results we've had so far, which is the vast majority of everybody in this webinar, 45% of everybody here doesn't have an established workflow or tracking method. Wow. Yeah, so and 28% still on spreadsheets. 17% are using a practice management app of some description, and then 9% are paper-based tracking, which I imagine is worse. Potentially, I don't know. You're the subject matter expert here, so you'll be able to tell us the.
Some of that depends on, how big is your practice. If you're solo and you're just keeping it on paper, that's possible to do, and you don't have a lot of many clients. But if you're a whole team and you have, everybody's not all on the same page, especially if you have more than one person serving a client, that could get a little hairy. But we're here to try to make that a little simpler for you. So I'm glad to see, we're trying to get through this and minimize the gray hairs, because it is a little intense because we get only 1 month. The tax preparers, although they do a lot more work, they get at least until March 15th on the business tax returns, but we have to get this done by the end of this month, so it's a little crazy. Excellent. Well, thank you all again for participating on that. Appreciate it. And we do what we got to do, but right now we're going to learn about how Pixie can help you, and it's helped me to be able to have that workflow step by step, because you don't have to remember everything. It frees your mind, and you can use it and find out where are you and keep track of what you're doing for each client every step of the way. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen, and Dom's gonna help us out.
Awesome. Thanks very much. So yeah, this is the point of the webinar where we need all of you to go to the trial account of Pixie that you created earlier. If you didn't create a trial before joining the webinar, don't worry. I'm just going to repost a link in the chat box so that you can still go sign up and tag along. I think
and also, can I just jump in here too?
Do.
Because I forgot to mention it, that if when we went through all those rules and then you saw the workflow and you're like, don't worry. The first part that is always the hair puller is the part about, well, who needs to get the 1099, and was it cash, was it check, and how do I know? I created for that boot camp that we did in November a decision tree that helps you to go through for each situation to figure out, does it get a 1099 or not? And I have posted in the chat box a link where you can download it. It's a PDF. And we did that again, so you can breathe a sigh of relief. Don't worry about it. And now you can focus in on the demo to see, once you know who's getting the 1099, how can you take care of them consistently and make sure that nothing gets missed so that none are left behind and then there's any exposure for your clients. So I'm done.
Absolutely. And we do have a lot of questions already on the 1099. So we'll circle back to those at the end and try and pick up as many as we can. But right now, yeah, let's talk about Pixie and how it can help you with tax season. To me, that sounded like a lot. So I'm obviously, if you can't tell already from my accent, I'm British. So, this is all news to me as well. And yeah, I can definitely see there's a lot of steps to that process. And I want to spin you guys through how Pixie is designed to help you streamline and also build consistency when you approach these types of jobs. So hopefully you're all logged into Pixie. That's step one. What I'd like you to do, guys, is just navigate to your client tab. Oh, there's always something going to go wrong in the live demo, isn't there?
Yeah, it's not to log in. That's fine.
There we go, back in action. So yeah, the first thing to do is to navigate to the client tab at the top of the screen. And what I want you to do is just hit the add client button. This is just so that we can demonstrate one of the amazing workflow templates that Gabrielle had built with us in Pixie to help streamline everything moving forward. So all you need to do for now is just pop in a name. So you can either use your imagination and come up with something quirky and fun, or you could use a real client, maybe one that you still need to actually start this process for. Either way, I'll leave it up to you, but just pop in a name and then go ahead and click next. The next thing you'll see is these custom fields. For now, we're going to ignore all of this. I will just mention, though, that Pixie is basically built to be a really versatile CRM system. So as time goes by, you can start to really tweak and customize this so that you're storing whatever you think is relevant to your client base. You can store it within Pixie. But for now, we're just going to keep clicking through and we're going to add a contact. So you may be thinking, I just added a client, Jimi Hendrix, and now I have to add a contact. That's the way Pixie's been designed. So what you'll need to do is just go ahead and punch in the first name and the last name of the client. And if you know a real email address and this is a real client, I would recommend putting this in just because it's going to be relevant later on. And part of what I'm going to be showing you today is explaining how Pixie can help you with your client communications. Once you've done that, go ahead and click save client. And then we'll jump into the next steps. Whilst I wait for everybody just to catch up, go ahead in the chat box, let us know how many clients you've got right now. It's your opportunity to brag if you want. Let us know how many individuals you've got or total clients, whatever you feel like sharing, just drop it in there whilst we're waiting for everybody just to catch up. I want to see who's got the highest number so far. There's quite a few, some 30s, 80. Wow, that's a 55, 30. So yeah, obviously in an ideal world, we wouldn't expect you to add every single client into Pixie one by one, because let's face it, it would just take too much time. So you'll be glad to know that you can import your client database into Pixie. I'm sure many of you, just trying to recall from the poll, 50% using spreadsheets. So if you've already got a spreadsheet that you're using to manage all of these jobs, you can export that into a CSV and import all of that information into Pixie to make it really, really easy to get started. Like any good craft show, I'm going to try and attempt to show you one I made earlier. And what you'll find is, like, you don't necessarily need to have, it's a good opportunity to clean up data for sure. But at the same time, if you're not quite sure that all of your client database is 100% correct, it's really easy to come back in later and really, like, you know, come back and you can edit, you can export and re-import as many times as you like. It's a really easy CRM to update. So don't get too caught up on the detail. It's just good to get the client data in, and then you can start working with it. So fingers crossed this is going to work. Success. It's going well. So we've got some client data in there. Don't worry, I don't expect you to have done that on the click along just to confirm. I just wanted to show you how it works. What I would like you guys to do is go to settings and click into your task templates. Now, because most of you would have already specified that you're from the USA when you signed up, you should find that you already have a whole bunch of relevant workflow templates created, ready for you to use in Pixie. If that's not the case, maybe you imported it earlier before the webinar. If not, don't worry about it too much, but it is a really simple, straightforward process. All you need to do is click into the template library here. And here we have a whole library of templates that have been created by bookkeepers and accountants within our community, such as Gabrielle. You can search for USA specific. You can scroll through here, try and find the 1099 template that you need. So on the third page, I believe, as soon as you found it, all you need to do is click Get Template, and you'll then be able to import that straight into Pixie. It will be a .pixie file type. I think that's what trips a few people up. So just be aware that this isn't a file that you can open on your computer and look at, but rather you download it and then you can import it straight into Pixie. So hopefully you'll have it. It'll be right here, Form 1099 NEC. What I'd like you guys to do is click into the 1099. We're going to come back, revisit this a little bit later on when we talk about things like triggers and how to automate this for you next year. But for now, I just want to show you the template and what you can do in here if you wanted to kind of tweak it and make it perfect for the services you're providing. So keep clicking through, click next once again, and what you'll find, and this is the point where I'm going to try and refer back to Gabrielle's slide that she was showing earlier. So just bear me 2 seconds whilst I try and get both of these on the screen for you at the same time. Gabrielle, how's this looking? Can you see this, or is it a little bit too small?
It's still fine. You can.
You have to have good eyes.
Yeah, well, yeah, most people could see it. My eyes aren't the best, but yeah, there, that's great. Even I can read that. Brilliant.
So yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I know you've already gone through and given us loads of great information, which is so useful. But I just wanted to show you that this is all standardized within this template, ready for us to use in Pixie. And of course, that's going to make sure that nothing gets missed and we can track the progress of all of our 1099 forms across all of our client base. So yeah, I'll whiz through it very quickly. Firstly, the first thing we have in the template is an email template, and this is super useful. When it comes to emails, Pixie's got two options. You can either have an email that is already crafted for you within a template, but you need to manually send it, or once you get really confident with the system, you can take the brakes off and actually automate this completely. So that next year in November, which is when the task triggers, right? November, if I remember right.
Yeah, the way we say before end of year. And if you're starting in November, you're making sure you're getting your ducks in a row and preliminary checking who's going to need these, but you don't really know who qualifies to get them until after the year ends. But that's just a way to make it so January is not so crazy.
Right. Okay. So would you start emailing clients in sort of November, December, just so that you can get ahead of the game, or would you hold back?
the real best practice is that you, remind your clients that all their contractors, you need W-9s for them if you don't already have them. Because the thing that makes you pull your hair out is that when you say, oh, they qualify, I have to file. Uh-oh, I don't have a W-9 from them. And so then you have to try to go get it. And then the contractors don't want to give them because it means it's going to be reported to the taxing authorities. Yeah. So that's why you do it early on.
Exactly. And I'm guessing all of that lost time, you can't get it back. And
exactly. That's why it's like, if right now you're like, uh-oh, that's what you first have to do is find out who needs these, make sure you get your W-9s so that you have enough time to file the 1099s, because the filing of the 1099s itself doesn't really take that much time. We saw it only has, the amount and the names, that's it, and the tax IDs.
So hopefully you'll start to see how this could be really useful. And basically, I could use Pixie to automatically email all of my clients whenever I choose. It could be November, it could be December, it could be something quite lighthearted, just a reminder. I'm not the expert, but it could be a reminder that, the deadline is looming, like be ready, get ahead of the game, like start getting your clients into the right frame of mind so that when it comes to that time of year, you're already one step ahead and you're not having to firefight with all of these deadlines. So that's the first thing within this template. Step 2, it kind of matches up what we have here on the left hand side. So we need to confirm that all the W-9 forms have been received. One thing to note in Pixie is you have like your main steps within the workflow, and then on the right hand side you have like subtasks or instructions, or maybe a link to something that's a really useful reference, which is particularly handy if you've got maybe someone in your team that's more junior, because what you can start doing is almost building a guide for dummies that they can follow and click along, and basically make it so they don't have to lean on you so much during that really, really busy time of year. So I won't spend too much time, but I know here you've got, looking back at your workflow here, I know you've got this kind of internal deadline, which is, I'm actually going to let you explain this one, if you don't mind. If you don't mind just talking us through the internal deadline and how you use that in Pixie and how it helps you keep on track.
Yeah, that's basically what it does, is it gets it so that you're reminded that this is coming up, so that, because if you have just the January 31st deadline, and you're busy doing other things for your clients, you might be doing cleanups, you're doing other things, and you forgot that you need to go do all this, that's going to like really give you gray hair. Whereas if you put a deadline ahead of time internally, now it's reminding you, so that now you have that little window of saying, oh, okay, this is coming up, I need to get it done. That's all that's for.
Exactly that. And I'm going to show you exactly what happens when you pass that deadline in just a minute, because we're already past the 2nd of January. So we'll see how that looks. I won't spend too much time, guys, going into detail, because I know there's, we've already spent time talking about W-9s, and for a lot of you, this may seem like bread and butter, but for others, there's going to be lots of questions, and we'll come back to that. But what I would say, if anything doesn't quite make sense from the Pixie standpoint, remember, like, we are here to support you after the webinar as well, and you can ask us as many questions as you like. One thing I did want to cover here, though, is if you want to tweak this, you can do. So sorry, Gabrielle, are you going to jump in there?
I was just going to say, because what you're showing is just the top level of each of the steps. But if you click as you go through each of those steps, they have explanations, they have, checkbox or things you need to do. So don't worry. It's not like just saying, okay, do this. And you're like, but what do I do? It's going to give you a little more guidance in the explanation for each of them.
I really like the way that you've got links in here included in your email template as well, so that if I click this as a client, I'm just taken straight into my form, which is just mind-blowing. So what I'm going to do is just return back to Pixie, and we're going to go back to the click along. So once you're happy with the template, like I said, it's really easy to tweak this. So I'll just show you very quickly how you can drag and drop in Pixie, so you can change the order of any of the steps. If you want to add in a step, just click add subtask down at the bottom. You can then enter the high level, as well as any kind of additional instructions or checklists that you may want to include. And that's complete, that can be configured to exactly to your liking. Once you're happy with how everything looks, go ahead and click Save Template. Don't worry about doing this now. You can come back and do this later. But what I'd like you to do, is go to your Client tab. Hopefully we have the client in here that we set up earlier. and I want to show you how to basically apply this workflow template. So for me, I have 19 clients here that I imported earlier. Gabrielle, I'm not an expert. So with the 1099s, what kind of entities do I file this for? Is sole proprietors or individuals or both?
For the client, it doesn't matter what entity they are. If you're a corporation, if your client is a corporation,
Okay.
but they are paying contractors for services, then they have to file 1099s. All businesses need to issue 1099s if they have contractors, vendors who qualify for
Right.
those who need to get the 1099.
All
So
right. Well,
it's the vendor who is either a sole prop or a partnership or an LLC filing as a sole prop or partnership.
okay. So in practice, what you would probably do in Pixie then is have a field saved against each client to indicate whether or not they qualify. So that what you're able to do.
It's not a client though, it's the vendors. And we don't.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I won't get caught up on the details, but we may have to revisit this conversation. And I have a feeling I'll probably be having it with quite a few of our listeners today. But for now, I just want to show you how to roll the task out. So go ahead and select the client that you created earlier. Click the create task option at the top here and find the 1099 template that we just looked at. And then go ahead and just click next and create task. So what we've done there is I just created one job, nice and straightforward, but it's really straightforward for me to do this in bulk at the same time. In fact, I just did it without realizing. So I've actually created all of my 1099 jobs here. So what you would do is work out what the qualifying criteria is, go to your client tab. You can apply filters from here for a whole bunch of stuff. So literally anything that you have stored in your CRM system, you can filter that out. So you can start to work out how you may use this in practice to create all of these tasks. And then it's as simple as that. I now have
actually, I could say, Dom, that what you did is perfect, because if you think about it, if you had a lot of, as the bookkeeper has a lot of clients, just apply the template to this task to all of your clients. And then that makes you go in to review to see, do I have any that need 1099s? If you find that you have a client that they paid all their contractors by credit card, well, then you don't have to file any 1099s for them. You celebrate and you mark the task as complete. You don't have to do every step because you don't have any vendors that qualify. But it still made you go in and look, because that's what we have to do, is go in and check.
Right. Okay. That's really useful information. I wasn't aware, so apologies for my negligence.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm not familiar with.
You're British.
Yeah, I'm British. That's my excuse today. I'm British. I might have to use that one a few more times. But so yeah. So what I'm gathering is then you need to do your due diligence across all your client base, do these checks for all your clients. So you would kick it all off, which makes sense. So you'll notice I've gone to the work tab. You can do exactly the same thing. If you click work, what you've essentially now got is a to-do list, and this is all of your tasks. So you should see one in here for the client that you made earlier now for your 1099. For me, I have loads of jobs on, so I can monitor the progress of all of my different 1099s across my client base from here. I can see the deadline, but one of the things Pixie's cleverly done has realized that I've passed that 2nd of January internal deadline, and it's flagged that up for me as overdue, just to bring that to my attention. And this is what it looks like. So when you click into that job, everything we looked at earlier in the template is right there, ready for you to work through. Like Gabrielle was saying, you've got all of the detail, all of the information, all of the checkboxes, and all of the links that you'll need to complete that exercise. Also, whilst you're in here, there's a few other things worth pointing out. So you can also see any emails that have been sent to the client, or any of the responses the clients have responded with will also be logged in against this job, which makes it really easy for me to maintain like sort of transparency of all the communication that either me or somebody else in the firm has had with that client. Furthermore, any files that are sent or exchanged off the back of this task, they'll all be logged in here against the job, which I'm imagining is going to be super useful. Gabrielle, I'm sure you can confirm. It's gonna keep everything in one place and make it easy for
in this case for the 1099, the way that would be helpful is if by chance you're not using a tool like Track 1099 or Tax 1099, because somebody did post in that now Track 1099 is going to be requesting the W-9s, that then if you have to send as we had in there, the PDF version of the W-9 because you need that information, then you can add in there when you send it that link, and I recommend this, the link so that they can upload it into Pixie, because remember the W-9 could have sensitive information in it. So you do not want them attaching that to an email and sending it to you. You want them to fill in the W-9 and then just upload it to Pixie.
Excellent. And I just want to touch on.
Uh-oh, Dom, you're muted.
Really?
Or I can't hear
you.
you.
Are you sure? Can everyone else?
Okay, now I can hear you.
Heard my heart going then. I was like, what's happening? So yeah, I want to show you one other quick thing, guys, because I know you know the deadlines are looming. There's a good chance that you may already be quite far through your 1099s potentially. Is that right, Gabrielle? This time of year?
Maybe it's only the first week in January. At this point, we might be scrambling to make sure we have all the information and that we know which clients we need to file the 1099s for. Or we're chasing W-9s.
I remember the 4% of the poll said they were getting crushed. So hopefully the majority are on top of things. Feel bad for the 4%, but hopefully this will help you out, you know, especially next year where you actually have the opportunity to get even further ahead of the game. Because what you can do is, what I've just shown you is how to create these jobs across your client base. But to make things even better, I haven't yet mentioned this, but Pixie, I mean, one of the most important features we have is our email integration. And to use that, it integrates with two-way sync with Office 365 and Gmail. And that's going to be really, really important when it comes to sending out all of these emails for you. But like I said earlier, you can take it a step further and you can take the brakes off and you can actually automate those emails so that next tax season, when we want to send these emails out to our clients, that's going to happen for us automatically in the background as soon as all these tasks are triggered. So to do that, it's exactly the same process. You can do it from the client list and you just click schedule task and then click the 1099 form for all of the clients it's applicable to, and then you can schedule it. Now, if I now click into, I'm not entirely sure which, there we go, I did it for Avengers. So if I click into a client record and I go to the recurring tasks tab, I can see that I have this switched on automatically and the next task is going to begin on the 15th of November this year. And if I've automated my emails, the emails will get sent out as soon as this job is created. So not only can I get ahead of the game, but I don't even have to do anything. So that's the real win here for me when it comes to improving the client experience, because ultimately, if you're helping them stay on track, it's going to benefit them as well as you, but also make your life a lot easier. Have I missed anything, do you think, so far, Gabrielle, talking about Pixie and the 1099 workflows?
No, I think you've pretty much hit it. I mean, you've shown like how would we use it in each client, because basically for me personally, another thing I really liked about Pixie is it focuses on clients because a lot of times we get lost in all the tasks, but we forget to focus on clients. So I like that you can go into this client area and then you see all the client tasks. In fact, when I use Pixie personally, I don't go work off of that work list. To me, it's overwhelming. But I go into my client that I'm focused on, and then I'm going through the work that I have for that client to be done. So that's just a personal preference. But I love that you have that when you're in to your client list, then you can just look at whatever tasks do you have open for that client.
Just like you see here. So I clicked into a client, I can see any work that I currently have to do for that client. I can tap in and out of that really easily from here. I can also see any work that I completed historically.
Or any tasks you assign to your clients.
Yes,
I like you can do that too.
Really good feature. We have the ability to actually set client tasks as well. What happens is they get sent a link to a secure portal where you can give them a to-do list and you can ask them to attach files directly into that client task as well. And they can then mark it as complete, and Pixie will notify you when that's done so you can pick up on your bit and carry on doing that job. Cool. And right, anything else to add before we move on? I kind of just want to give everyone a quick overview of maybe some of the other core features before we jump back into the
Actually,
price.
Dom, let's not, because less is more. I mean, we can get overwhelmed and we're already think we're in 1099 mode. So what you showed us is what we need to do in order to get the 1099s done.
Perfect. Sounds good to me.
So,
Yeah, I don't want to take too much of the 4% who are getting crushed. I don't want to take too much of their time.
well, and also because I've been trying to scroll through and look at, what everybody's been chatting about. And we have a lot here who this is their first year doing 1099s. So definitely we don't want too much overwhelm.
Okay, right. What I'll do is jump back into these slides then, guys. I'll just summarize a few bits from me and then we'll go back and do some Q&A. But yeah, everything we just saw is really just the tip of the iceberg. We've seen some award-winning firms do some really clever things with Pixie, particularly using integrations to really streamline everything they're doing on the day-to-day basis. So we're doing a special offer for everyone who attended today. So what you're able to do is sign up for the annual subscription of Pixie and get 25% off exclusively for anyone who attended this webinar today. To use that discount code, when you're in the product, when you go to the billing options, you just need to enter 1099 rocks, all in capital letters, to get 25% off, and that's paid annually at $531. When you do that, you'll then get access to somebody like me, who will be your dedicated Pixie customer success manager. I'll be here to help you get started. So if this does seem overwhelming, don't worry, because that's exactly what I'm here to help you with. So if it's importing client data in, I can help you get through that challenge. When it comes to actually reviewing how to best use Pixie for all of your different types of jobs, that's what we're here to help with. You'll also have access to some great on-demand training and further support from me and the rest of the team. One thing to note as well, Pixie's it covers you for unlimited users. So it doesn't matter the size of the team. It doesn't matter if you're looking to grow or hire additional members of staff. It's not going to cost you anything extra to add members of your team to the platform. Right, let's get into the Q&A. What's the best way of doing this? Maybe we take some questions from the top of the pile and maybe some from the bottom of the pile. And then we should naturally have some questions about Pixie and then some questions about 1099s.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Do you want me to read them out, or are you?
Yes, please.
All right, so I guess some of these may have already been answered, so I'll try my best. I'm no expert, but
and you're in the Q&A, are you?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
okay,
first question for me. Where can I get a list of vendors who send 1099s so we don't duplicate, i.e. American Express, Veeam, PayPal, all those third party?
Any third party, you're not filing 1099s. Don't even worry. If there are payments made via your client paid their vendor, their contractor via American Express, no 1099 needed. American Express has to worry about filing the 1099K. So if they paid any other way besides check or bank-to-bank transfer or cash, we have very few that ever do cash. Those are the only ones that you're doing the 1099 for. If they're paying by American Express, credit card, any third-party network, no, you don't have to do it. And no, there is no IRS on all these different apps for payments and stuff. There is no IRS list. They just say that basically if they're the ones holding the money, that's a third party. And if you, my bottom line question on that, because I did see in the chat a lot of people asking, well, what about Zelle? What about this? What about that? Go to those companies and see, do they issue 1099Ks? That is the absolute real answer, because you can't necessarily listen to me, say, well, Gabrielle said, it's like, no, it's between the IRS and those companies on whether or not they have to file it. For us, it's just cash, check, or bank-to-bank transfer, ACH.
Okay, we have a nice simple question here from Stacy. Is the 31st of January, is that a delivery deadline or a mailing deadline?
It could be mailing, postmarked. They're supposed to receive it, but you know how that goes. As long as you have it, if you're doing it by paper, it has to be postmarked by January 31st.
One question here relating to Pixie. So what's the difference between Pixie and Asana? I think the best way to summarize that is, Pixie is purpose built for accountants. We have a whole community of accountants, not just in America, but in the UK, who have helped us craft these custom workflow templates to enable you to use it really, really easily out of the box with very little configuration. Furthermore, there's a few features that Asana doesn't have. I've used both platforms. I know Asana is more for like project management, whereas Pixie is more for, it's a CRM database. It has a document portal where you can request files from your clients and they can submit. And we also have email integration and features such as document signing. So I guess the best way to summarize is Pixie is built for accountants.
Yeah, it's a practice management. It's not project management.
Yeah, exactly that. Some more questions on 1099s. So
actually, you know what? Why don't we do the Pixie? Well, I'd say if you see some, because what I'm going to do, I realize we probably have more questions than we have time for.
We have 102 questions currently. So yeah, just to set the expectation. I'm sorry, guys, we're not going to be able to get through every single question.
So what we're going to do, I'll just say it right now. If you don't get your question answered, Pixie has been kind enough to give me an email address with them. I'm putting it in the chat box. This is my email address. If you have technical questions about 1099s, you can email me and ask me your questions. I'm happy to answer them. Okay, so then that way, I mean, it helps when we hear them. So you can still mix it up with the 5 minutes we have left, but it's because it helps when you hear other people's questions too. But if you don't get to them, because we'll realize, we could be here for another hour probably. So go ahead.
Okay, cool. So like I said as well, guys, I do apologize if we don't read your question out, but we will be reaching out. So myself and our customer success managers will be reaching out to you proactively if you've signed up for a trial. So you'll have an opportunity. If you have a question about Pixie, you'll have plenty of opportunity to talk to a human being and find out your answers. So I have someone asking, how secure is Pixie? Whilst I'm not a massive tech wizard, I do know that Pixie has the highest level of security, as in everything is encrypted and safe, and all of our document requests and portal is fully GDPR compliant. So you don't have to worry from a security standpoint. But if you still do have questions, of course, just get in touch with us and we can get a little bit more detail for you. Somebody asked if clients can upload documents to Pixie without a task being created. So yeah, absolutely. Like we have the ability to request files from clients just from sending an email. So each of your clients in Pixie will have their own dedicated link where you can request that they upload documents. And as soon as they click into that link, they can drop the documents off. It's password protected, so it's GDPR compliant. And then those files will be stored directly against the client record in Pixie.
Very good.
A few people asking me to repeat the discount code. So again, it's 1099 rocks, all one word.
I'll put that in the chat.
We'll make sure that you are. We'll make sure to send that around in our follow-up as well. So don't worry. Somebody else asked, how do I get from the template list to open the tasks and subtasks? So what you want to do is click into the workflow template. Then you want to skip through the parameters of the triggers and the due dates. Just click next on the bottom right. And then eventually you'll find that you're in the task list where you can review and customize all of the subtasks and everything else within the workflow template.
Yeah, that's important to mention too. When you're getting the templates, like maybe not so much for 1099s, because that is going to be pretty much the same for all your clients. But if you have other templates, like your bookkeeping process, you may find, well, I need to do these special things for this client, but that client's something else. It's okay. You just put in the template, but then you can customize it for each client.
Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that, because that's so relevant. I've had a question here from somebody else as well, asking if is Pixie only for managing 1099s. So Pixie is for managing any of the services that you provide to your clients, whether that's payroll, bookkeeping, year-end accounts, tax, you name it, advisory services, credit control, whatever it might be. You can build those workflows out to meet your needs and then roll them out across the client base. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Gabrielle. Super relevant.
Yes, yes. And there's a bunch of templates for the common things we do, but you can also create your own templates if you already have a process.
Exactly that. It's really easy as well to collaborate as well. So if you know somebody else that's using Pixie and they've built a workflow template, they can actually send it to you, which I really like that feature. I think that's really nice. Get a lot of people saying that they're kind of building stuff together and sending it backwards and forwards. Somebody asked if, so just to repeat, we integrate with Office 365 and Gmail. So just to repeat that for you.
Oh, and just by the way, if you are trying to use the discount code, because people were asking for that, you will use that code because you can start your Pixie trial with, you know, no credit card, nothing like that. And you can just use it if you want to just experience this and get the idea. But if you're saying like, hey, I want to take advantage because that's a special deal, you have to activate your account. And that's when you put in your payment info and you put in the discount code, just in case there was confusion on that.
Somebody else, how do I register for training? So we're bringing out a pre-recorded series that should be going live hopefully next month so that it's available on demand. So you'll be seeing that come out very soon, and it'll be accessible by hitting the question mark from within Pixie, where you'll be able to sign, download content or view that content live. Sorry, not live, on demand. But as I mentioned, you will get a dedicated customer success manager as well. So if it's something where you need support now or you want to get set up as soon as possible, we'll be reaching out to you. So keep an eye out for your emails. You'll probably see an in-app message pop up from one of us as well. Just let us know. We'll send you a link to our Calendly pages where you guys can book straight in for a call. We can do screen shares and we can really help you through that initial setup phase.
Very good. I had a question of someone who was saying that it was asking straight away, this is in the chat, asking straight away when they went into a trial if it was, they wanted their credit card. I'm wondering, is that because maybe if they had a trial before, would it do that?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know the answer to that one.
Okay, well, you know what? Then they should just put in a support ticket and ask about it.
Exactly. Just get in touch. Get in touch. We'll happily look into it for you and make sure we get you set up.
We're actually overtime right now.
Oh, we overtime. Oh, thank you. So we're scheduled till 6, so I guess we should wrap up.
And yes, anybody who came in late, I see one said, oh no, I missed this. You're going to get a follow-up with the recording. So you'll be able to get the replay for anything that you missed.
I just wanted to, last question, because it's right in front of me. Sorry, Dominique, you asked, how do we create a copy of a workflow template to retain the original template before we customize it? Just click the 3 dots and you'll see that you have the ability to duplicate a template. So then you can customize it, but you still maintain the original template there in case you want to revisit it or you're worried that you're going to screw anything up. So don't worry, you can duplicate them and they'll still be there for you.
I do that all the time.
I guess all that's left to do is say thank you for joining us. Thank you to Gabrielle for all of her excellent and amazing knowledge and for being our special guest today. And like I said, keep an eye out for your emails, guys. We'll be in touch. And I look forward to speaking to more of you in the future.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Cheers, guys. Bye.